Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, October 20th, as I sit here and record this, although I don't think you guys are going to see it until Saturday or Sunday. I've been very busy, and I have no idea when I'm going to be able to sit down, edit, and publish this ramble rant. Today, I wanted to sit back and talk about a concept in business. It's not really a well-known one. It's called, what is it, Trust thermocline, I think is the word. That's the phrase, anyway. You see, I haven't bought a Magic product since Dominaria United, and I don't plan on buying any Magic products for the foreseeable future. And I know that there's many Magic fans out there who are like me who have that same idea. They're not going to buy anything for a while. And there's a reason for that. You see, in business, there's only so far you can push and prod your customer base. You can come out with this new product that costs more than the old product and gives less, and convince your customers through a lengthy article that it's somehow a good thing. You can make arbitrary bans that have nothing to do with game mechanics and everything to do with optics. You can just make the worst possible stories imaginable and publish them like slog, and people will read them. But sooner or later, there is a breaking point. And when that breaking point is passed, you lose everything. Let me explain. You see, with each terrible decision Wizards of the Coast makes, they lose more and more customers. They can claim as much as they want that they are gaining record sales and the game is booming and thriving. Every new set is the best-selling set in its particular category ever. Look at Kamigawa or Lord of the Rings, where they say it's the best-selling set of X section of the year. Whereas you're seeing a lot of people quit the game and grumble online, but the game keeps going. Wizards keeps making these bad products, objectively bad products, and forcing them onto the players, and the players just kind of sit down and grumble and play. But while you see a lot of people leaving, you also see way more people staying. And there's a reason for that. There are numerous reasons someone could have legitimate, lengthy complaints about a product or a company, but still stay with that company. There are two big ones. The first is the sunk cost fallacy. Somebody who's spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on Magic the Gathering cards is unlikely to just stop because they don't like the newest set or the newest story or the newest stupid decision by WotC. After all, they've dumped a lot of money into this game and they're going to continue playing. Along with that sunk cost fallacy, there's the idea of, they've spent so much time on Magic that getting into another game might just be too much of a hassle. I think Flesh and Blood is an amazing game, infinitely better than anything Wizards of the Coast has shat out in the last 5 to 6 years, but even if I say that wholeheartedly, I know that I would have a very difficult time convincing other Magic fans to play Flesh and Blood just because they are so accustomed to Magic and they are unwilling to legitimately try out something else. The other factor, of course, is the bothered level. There is a tolerance many people have for inconvenience in their life, and while they may have complaints about whatever terrible practice Wizards of the Coast is doing this week, they aren't too bothered yet. Their enjoyment of the game still outweighs how annoyed they are with Wizards of the Coast. And these two factors, they can carry your customer base a long way. You can push and push at those customers. Yeah, you'll lose some along the way as either A, the sunk cost fallacy falls off, or B, their annoyance begins to outweigh their enjoyment. But you as a company, you've been in this game for 30 years, you're going to keep pushing and pushing because you really want that money. You want that short-term gains, boy. You need to show your investors that you can do it. You can double the money in 5 years and then double it again in 3 years and bring all those sweet, sweet investor bucks into your pocket. But eventually, you hit the trust thermocline. You see, while everybody has a breaking point, they tend to have varying degrees of annoyance points. You know, if somebody is annoyed by point A, but they don't quit the game, point B might also not make them quit. Point C might not make them quit, but eventually you get all the way down to point X, and then they're done. And this can happen on a massive scale. You know, it can happen with a trickle at first. A bunch of people leave because of point A, a few more leave because of point D, but the majority of your players hold out until point X, until that stupid decision number X. And for a lot of these stupid decisions, if WotC had just reverted the decision, if they had just reverted decision A, they would have gotten back most of the people who left because of decision A, if not all of them. However, if it reaches decision X, if it reaches this certain point where so many people are just fed up that they just leave the game entirely and don't look back, they swallow that sunk cost and they move on to something else, it doesn't matter if you roll back the bad decision that caused all those people to leave, because they had numerous grievances, and that final decision was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And there's nothing you as a company can do to bring those people back into your game once you've crossed that threshold. The sad part about this situation, of course, is that if Wizards of the Coast was a company that paid attention to its core audience, the average player enjoying and buying Magic products, rather than hotheads on Twitter who have nothing but contempt for the game, they could start to understand some of the issues that have been accumulating over time, and rolling back on some of those poor decisions they've made, such as some really questionable ban decisions. I mean, look at the most recent ban list. That's a joke. Everyone agrees it's a joke. Or some of these terrible products or ideas they have for the long term. Look at any of the terrible decisions Wizards of the Coast has made in the last 4 or 5 years now. I mean, look at the D&D debacle, where they tried to get content creators to give them money for creating content. Or the most recent Play Booster announcement, where they've decided that draft boosters are no longer cutting it. They are going to give you one less card per booster and charge you more money. Because obviously, if they were paying attention, they would see that these are terrible decisions that hurt the core consumers' trust in their company, and eventually there will be a tipping point from which there cannot be a return. I love Magic the Gathering. Seriously. But I'm not buying any products, and I won't for a very long time. And I'm worried that sooner or later, I will not be part of a vocal minority. I will be an average. Because sooner or later, like it or not, all of these bad decisions WotC is making over time will finally accumulate. There will be one final decision that they make that just loses all of their customers. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it could be, because there's been some crazy bullshit in the last few years. But sooner or later, something is going to come along that will just get the entire community, even the most fervent WotC shills, to go, alright, I'm done, I'm walking away. And again, I don't know what that could be, but it's going to be something absolutely stupid that would be easily avoided if Wizards of the Coast employees, or maybe just Hasbro in general, had even the slightest bit of sense as to what their paying customers enjoy, which they really don't seem to do anymore. They don't seem to understand why people love this game, what they're looking for in a draft experience, in a standard environment, in a game of Commander. It's a sad concept, one that I don't really want to think about, because it's very possible that sooner or later, Magic the Gathering will die. Not because it's a bad game, but because of terrible decisions being made by Wizards of the Coast ultimately accumulating into a impossible to win situation. Because again, once the majority of these people leave, they aren't coming back. Look at the, Bud Light situation, where no one's returning to Bud Light after boycotting it. No one's going back to that company after they've, wasn't really paying too much attention to the entire situation. All I know is that a bunch of people stopped buying that beer, and they're not going to go back to buying that beer just because the convenience is no longer there. Every other beer on the market is just as cheap, just as bad, but you've inconvenienced them. And sooner or later, the same thing's going to happen with Magic the Gathering, where Wizards of the Coast is going to make a terrible decision that will just chase away everyone. There's really no well thought out ending to this discussion. I just wanted to bring that concept up for everyone. It's sad to think about, and this is, in a way, a prediction of the future. I do sincerely believe that sooner or later, something's going to be done that will chase away everyone. But what do you guys think? Am I just doom posting? Let me know. I will talk to you later. Thank you so much for listening in on my ramble rant. I will now be heading to work, I suppose.